Imagine holding a piece of the universe in your bare hands, a beautiful, glowing, blue-green light that feels warm to the touch. It looks like pure magic. It feels like a miracle. You keep it in a jar by your bed, mesmerized by its silent, ethereal glow in the dark. But what you don't know is that this beautiful light is quietly and visibly tearing your body apart from the inside out. This is the story of a woman who captured that light. She discovered an invisible power that altered the course of human history. It was a power that would eventually cure deadly diseases and shape the modern world. But the universe always demands a terrible price for its deepest secrets. And for the woman who unlocked this one, the price was her reputation, her great love, and ultimately her own life. Today, her notebooks are still so dangerous that they must be kept in lead-lined boxes, and anyone who wishes to read them must wear protective gear. This is the incredible, tragic, and heroic story of Marie Curie, the woman who discovered the invisible and died for it. To understand the sheer magnitude of her achievements, you must first understand the world that tried to hold her back. Long before she became a global icon, she was simply Maria Skłodowska, a young girl born in Warsaw, Poland in 1867. But this was not a free Poland. It was a nation suffocating under the iron grip of the Russian Empire. Women were forbidden from attending university. They were expected to be quiet, to be obedient, and to leave the thinking to men. But Maria possessed a mind that refused to be silenced. When the doors of official education were slammed in her face, she joined the Flying University, a secret, underground educational enterprise operating in the shadows of Warsaw. Classes were held in hidden basements and shifting locations to avoid the Russian police. The penalty for being caught was severe, but the hunger for knowledge was stronger than the fear of imprisonment. Maria and her sister made a pact. Maria would work as a governess to fund her sister's medical studies in Paris, and then her sister would return the favor. For years, Maria endured the humiliation of working for wealthy, often cruel families, quietly saving every penny. Finally, the day came. In 1891, at the age of 24, she boarded a train to Paris. She enrolled at the Sorbonne and changed her name to Marie. But the struggle was far from over. Paris was a city of light and culture, but for Marie, it was a city of freezing garrets and near starvation. She survived on a diet of buttered bread and tea, sometimes fainting in the middle of class from sheer hunger. During the brutal Parisian winters, she would wear every single piece of clothing she owned just to keep warm in her unheated attic room. Yet, amidst the cold and the hunger, her mind was on fire. She devoured physics and mathematics, outworking everyone around her, driven by a desperate, relentless obsession to understand the fundamental laws of nature. It was this very obsession that led her to the love of her life. She was looking for laboratory space, a rare commodity for a female scientist, when she was introduced to a quiet, brilliant French physicist named Pierre Curie. Pierre was a man who lived entirely for science. He had dismissed the idea of romance, believing that a serious relationship would only distract him from his work. But then he met Marie. He was utterly captivated not just by her beauty, but by her formidable intellect, her fierce independence, and her calloused hands stained from chemical experiments. He recognized in her a kindred spirit, an equal. Their courtship was not built on extravagant gifts or poetic declarations, but on long walks discussing magnetism and molecular structures. When Pierre proposed, he did not offer her a life of luxury. He offered her a life of absolute devotion to discovery. They were married in a simple ceremony, using the money given to them as a wedding gift to buy 2 bicycles, which they rode across the French countryside for their honeymoon. Together, they formed one of the most formidable partnerships in the history of science. Marie had become fascinated by a recent, strange discovery made by Henri Becquerel. Uranium emitted a mysterious, invisible energy that could pass through solid objects. Most scientists ignored it, moving on to more exciting topics like X-rays. But Marie sensed something profound hidden within those invisible rays. She decided to investigate a bizarre rock called pitch blende, a highly radioactive ore. Her initial tests revealed something impossible. The pitch blend was far more radioactive than the pure uranium it contained. There was only one logical explanation. Hidden deep within this muddy black rock was a completely new, undiscovered element. To prove it, they needed to isolate it. What followed was a period of grueling, back-breaking labor that defies belief. The Curies were denied a proper laboratory by the university. Instead, they were given an abandoned, leaky, unventilated wooden shed that had previously been used to dissect cadavers. In the summer, it was a stifling oven. In the winter, it was freezing cold. Rain poured through the glass roof. Here, Marie took on the role of an industrial laborer. She ordered tons of pitch blende waste from the mines of Bohemia. Day after day, year after year, she stood in that miserable shed, wielding a heavy iron rod almost as big as she was, stirring boiling toxic cauldrons of black sludge. The fumes stung her eyes and burned her throat. Her hands became cracked, blistered, and scarred from handling the caustic chemicals and the mysterious unseen energy. They had no idea that the invisible rays they were so desperately trying to isolate were slowly killing them. After 4 years of unimaginable physical and mental exhaustion, boiling down thousands of kilograms of dirt, they finally extracted a microscopic pinch of glowing, radioactive dust. They had not found one element, but two. The first she named polonium in honor of her beloved, oppressed homeland. The second she named radium. The discovery shattered the foundational laws of physics. Until that moment, scientists believed that atoms were solid, indivisible blocks. Radium proved them wrong. It showed that atoms were dynamic, decaying and releasing staggering amounts of energy. Marie Curie did not just discover a new element. She opened the door to the atomic age. In 1903, the world finally recognized their monumental achievement. The Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Henri Becquerel, Pierre Curie, and Marie Curie. But even then, the scientific establishment tried to erase her. The initial nomination only included the two men. It was only because Pierre found out and furiously demanded that his wife be recognized as the driving force behind the discovery that her name was added. She became the first woman in history to win a Nobel Prize. Suddenly, they were famous. The world became obsessed with radium. It was marketed as a miracle cure, added to toothpaste, cosmetics, glowing watch dials, and even drinking water. Companies offered the Curies fortunes to patent their extraction process, but Marie absolutely refused. She believed that scientific discoveries belonged to humanity, not to individuals for profit. They gave away their secrets for free, choosing to remain in modest circumstances. But the universe is unforgiving. In 1906, tragedy struck with the force of a sudden, brutal blow. Pierre, walking across a rain-slicked street in Paris, his mind likely lost in scientific thought, slipped and fell directly under the wheels of a heavy horse-drawn wagon. He was killed instantly. The impact on Marie was devastating. She lost her husband, her partner, her best friend, the only person who truly understood the depth of her mind. She descended into a profound, dark depression, writing heart-wrenching letters to her dead husband in a private diary. Yet, even in her absolute despair, she refused to surrender. She took over Pierre's professorship at the Sorbonne, becoming the first female professor in the university's hundreds of years of history. On the day of her first lecture, the hall was packed with students, journalists, and curious onlookers expecting an emotional tribute. Instead, Marie walked in, stared blankly at the crowd, and began her lecture precisely at the exact sentence where Pierre had left off before his death. As the years passed, Marie poured her grief into her laboratory, but the public, who had once adored her, was about to turn on her with vicious cruelty. In 1911, a scandal erupted that nearly destroyed her career. Marie, a widow for several years, had fallen in love with Paul Langevin, a brilliant physicist and a former student of Pierre's. The problem was that Paul was married, though estranged from his abusive wife. When the affair was discovered, the French right-wing press viciously attacked Marie. They branded her a foreign home wrecker, a dangerous Polish woman who was destroying a French family. Mobs gathered outside her home, throwing stones and terrifying her young daughters. The scientific community, dominated by men, turned their backs on her. The Nobel Committee, who had just decided to award her a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, actually wrote to her, suggesting she stay in France and not attend the ceremony to avoid embarrassing them. But Marie Curie was forged in the fires of adversity. She ignored their cowardly advice. Supported by a few loyal friends, including a young Albert Einstein who wrote her a passionate letter urging her to ignore the haters, she traveled to Sweden. She stood tall and proud, accepting her second Nobel Prize, becoming the first person in history, male or female, to win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields. And then, the First World War tore Europe apart. The French government, the same government that had just watched her be crucified by the press, now needed her. Millions of young men were dying in the muddy, blood-soaked trenches. Surgeons were performing blind amputations because they could not locate bullets and shrapnel hidden inside the soldiers' bodies. Marie immediately saw a solution. She realized that X-ray technology, which relied on the principles of radiation she helped uncover, could save lives. She did not sit comfortably in a laboratory. She learned to drive, learned basic auto mechanics, and convinced wealthy Parisians to donate their cars. She equipped these vehicles with portable X-ray machines and generators, creating the world's first mobile radiological units. They became known as the Petites Curies, or Little Curies. Marie, along with her teenage daughter Irene, drove straight to the front lines. Through the mud, the artillery fire, and the unimaginable horror of the war hospitals, Marie trained hundreds of nurses and personally X-rayed over 1 million wounded soldiers. Her invisible rays guided the surgeons' scalpels, saving countless lives and limbs. She was an absolute hero, though she never asked for a single medal or word of thanks. But the invisible enemy she had conquered was exacting its final revenge. For decades, Marie had carried test tubes of radioactive isotopes in her pockets. She had kept glowing vials on her desk as nightlights. She had spent countless hours exposed to massive, unregulated doses of radiation. The very elements she had brought out of the darkness were destroying her blood. By the 1930s, she was suffering from aplastic anemia, her bone marrow entirely decimated by radiation exposure. She grew frail, nearly blind from cataracts, her fingers permanently burned and scarred. Yet she never expressed regret. She had lived her life entirely on her own terms, fiercely pursuing truth above all else. On July 4, 1934, Marie Curie passed away. She was laid to rest next to her beloved Pierre. Decades later, the French government finally recognized the sheer magnitude of her legacy, moving their remains to the Pantheon in Paris, the ultimate resting place for France's greatest heroes. To do so, they had to seal her coffin in thick lead, because even in death, her body remained dangerously radioactive. Marie Curie did not just practice science, she lived it, she breathed it, and she died for it. She walked into the unknown, a woman in a world of men, and dragged the invisible secrets of the universe into the light. Her sacrifice gave us the modern world, a testament to the beautiful, terrifying, and awe-inspiring power of a human mind that refused to accept the word impossible. If this journey into the past has captivated you, don't forget to leave a like. It's the best way to support this project and keep history alive. To continue unraveling the mysteries of the most fascinating characters who have ever walked this earth, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next journey through time. Until next time.